actually celebrating now 100 years exactly since it was written. Elgar wrote it very much affected by what he saw and heard and felt from the terrible First World War. And it was this moment of great tragedy in Europe in general and in England in particular. And he was very much affected by the pain and the suffering that he saw. Added to that, he had his own problems. He had some health issues and he thought he was dying. And the story goes that he wrote this theme, this sad and heartfelt theme, while he was in the hospital, thinking that he was going to die. And so it has a kind of a tragic onset, tragic origin. But the piece itself is not all tragic. It has moments of lightness and it has a lot of optimism in it, and it's very colorful. I have to say about this piece is that the first performance of it was terribly accepted. Apparently the performance was very bad because there was not ample rehearsal time and something went wrong. And everybody was very upset about it, and for some years after that the piece was not well played and received. Actually, the person that brought this piece into fame is the famous cellist Jacqueline Dupré, the English cellist, that kind of launched her career along with the piece. It's interesting that the piece carried her name and she carried the piece's name. And since then, since Jacqueline brought it into light, it's very popular and I think one of the most loved and appreciated pieces of any repertoire, especially the cello. So this is the theme that Elgar wrote in his hospital, and I think you immediately hear that it has sadness and also some sort of longing for something that maybe is not there anymore, something simple. And you ask me why I like this concerto is because these emotions, the sadness and the complicated feelings are best shown on this cello, on the instrument that he chose to write the concerto for. And through the instrument, and possibly without, before I chose this instrument, these things resonate with me, Give me a sad tune, I like to play it. So that's the connection. It has that sadness, but it's an emotional journey to play this piece. It's not. Music can take you far away to different lands and to many different areas of your psyche and your soul. And this piece is incredible in carrying you from one thing to the next, from very warm feelings, like in the third movement there is this kind of warmth and love that you feel like, it's incredible that he manages to portray such beauty. And then the last movement is again kind of militaristic, kind of reacting to something military that he felt. And then I think maybe the climax of the piece is at the very end. It ends going back to the beginning. It's a circular thing. And you know how it is in life. You go away, you travel, you see, you develop, you change, but then eventually you always come back to yourself or to what you are. And the end, when the theme comes back again, it's completely different, although it's the same notes. It feels different because everybody, the the musicians and the audience have gone through a huge 30-minute journey throughout thousands of different emotions and scenarios. So, I think that's the best you can ask for in art and in music. I always feel like it's somewhere in nature. He's thinking, I don't know, remembering something about the good old days when he could go out and run around in the green fields of England and see the butterflies and smell the grass. That's what I feel in this movement, which is a very quick, fast, molto perpetuo. I think it lasts maybe 4 minutes, but it's whimsical and fantastic. Well, most of our repertoire as cellist comes from the 19th century. Romantic era, Schumann, Brahms, some Beethoven. That's our daily bread, you could say, with the Dvorak concerto, Elgar concerto, Schumann concerto, Tchaikovsky. That's what you have to play. You don't have to do anything. you have to play what you like, but that's somehow where our main course is. Of course, the pre-romantic, we have the Bible, the 6 suites of Bach, which I don't think there is any cellist in the world who does not play the 6 suites of Bach, at least attempting to play them, because they are kind of our Bible. And then there's a lot of repertoire, in between, Boccherini and Locatelli and all kinds of Baroque and Rococo composers, up to Haydn, who was generous enough to write for us 2 concertos. But unfortunately, Mozart did not. No Mozart pieces for cello, really, not even one, which is, if I would meet him in heaven one day, I would ask him why. And then we have the 20th century, which was a big century for the cello, thanks to some of the great soloists like Ostopovich and Yo-Yo Ma and many others. So many 20th century composers wrote amazing pieces like Shostakovich and Prokofiev and Britten and many more. So the repertoire is very wide and varied. Maybe not as wide as varied as the violin or the piano, but there is enough work for a lifetime, and it's always interesting and always fascinating. And if you ask me what I like to play, the answer is usually what I play at that moment. That's what I like to play. I try to dive into every piece and play it like it's the first time, in a way. Try to get rid of excess baggage of tradition and previous performances and see it new. And the phrase I will quote, I don't remember who said it, but you should play old music as if it's new and new music as if it's old, as if it has tradition. So that's my goal, to try to shed new light on old music and to put new music in perspective of the old. Both my parents were born in Israel, but their parents immigrated to Israel from, my father's side came from Poland. Both grandfather and grandmother came from Poland. And then from my mother's side, they came from Syria. And my grandfather had, I don't remember how many brothers, but maybe 6 or 7 brothers and sisters. And I think 1 or 2 of them immigrated to Mexico. And there is a big family here in Mexico City that I got to meet a few times in Israel on, some family occasions, birthdays and holidays. And once when I was here before, I went to visit them and they came to my concert, and possibly they will come to our concert on Sunday. I hope so. I've been here, I don't remember, maybe I would say about 10 times already, yes. I played if you mean Mexico City, then I think I played here maybe 6 or 7 times. But I toured all around Mexico with. I was in Cervantino Festival a few times, and I toured with a chamber music group many years ago, all over the country. And I've played with Maestro Medina several times with different orchestras in Monterrey, and here with the Bellas Artes Chamber Orchestra a few times. And I think the first time I came to Mexico was with St. Martin in the Fields. I played Brahms' double concerto here in this hall in Bellas Artes with Gil Shaham and Sir Neville Marriner, who just died not long ago. And it was one of those life experiences that I always remember. So I like coming here. During the performance, there is not exceptional noise, what I remember, but I do remember that people love to clap, in between movements enthusiastically, which is something that, in kind of traditional places, it's not looked as appropriate. But I find it, if people are happy and they want to clap because they heard something they loved, I like to get enthusiastic applause in the middle of a piece. It used to be like that, actually, before those rules were set. It used to be almost like jazz, that somebody played something really amazing, people would clap, and somebody played terribly, people would boo. So it used to be much more interactive than it is now. And here, it's a little more interactive. There is a feeling of liveliness in the hall. And I have to say that after the concert, I always get such enthusiastic visits from audience members, and everybody comes, and there is this feeling of great appreciation for art and for music and for, people who come to play from outside. I think there is this enthusiasm that I feel like your pop friends. This music is more than 2.5 hours long, and people, I see this everywhere. I mean, he's done it all over. He's doing it all over the world. There is something about his personality, about his background, about his interpretation, about the way that he is, the celebrity that he is, what he stands for, that people are willing to take a risk and come and listen to him and experience this thing, which, otherwise they probably would never even imagine going to this kind of an event. And it's a tribute to him, and I think eventually it's a tribute to Bach, that manages to capture with his, what I said, the Bible, these prayers that he wrote for us, these incredibly smart prayers. So what he's doing is really kind of hypnotizing people, and that's power of personality and charisma, and I can only thank him for that, for making this music so relevant to so many people, because it's not naturally so. Because one of the problems that classical music has with attracting audiences is that there is this barrier, there is these rules, there is these laws, there is this kind of a gap between performers and the music and the audience. And anybody who manages to break those walls and bring it somehow down to earth, not to say lowering the level, obviously he's not lowering anything, he's bringing the highest level, but manages through his personality and through his fame, I think that shows people, that music is music. Good music is good music. And if it's called classical, if it's called Bach or Beethoven or Mozart, it's not scarier than any other music. It's just you have to come with an open mind and open ears and see what happens. Because I think people are naturally curious about music. I think that's inherent in any person anywhere. But sometimes this curiosity is kind of quashed by fear and by embarrassment. The first thing I hear from people who come to a concert, for the first time is, I don't know anything about it. I don't understand. I'm listening, but I don't know it. You don't have to know anything. I mean, you have to come and listen. And slowly, if you listen a lot, you will know more. It's like anybody. If I try to listen to traditional Mexican music, first I won't know it, and then I will know, and then I will be able to tell the differences between this mariachi and that mariachi, but it takes time. It takes a little openness, but if you're curious, then music can really be interesting and fascinating and open to anybody.
Do you listen to other kind of music?
Oh yeah.
Besides classical?
Yeah.
What do you like to listen?
Well, we have amazing Israeli pop music, a lot of really good pop music. So, I listen to a lot of that naturally because it's in my habitat. But I also like, rock and jazz and some new age. And I was lucky to grow up in a family of classical music, but I had brothers that taught me to listen to Led Zeppelin and to Kiss and to Genesis and to Pink Floyd. So when I was growing in the 80s, I had all of these around me, and I still love listening to actually, I love listening to most kinds of music, any kind of good music.
Speaking about your family, your father was a scientist, right?
That's right.
He
Yeah.
was in physics.
That's right.
I read that.
Yes, he was a physicist, a nuclear physicist.
A nuclear physicist. Wow. And you were never interested in that.
I was fascinated by what he was doing, and I kind of had some window into this world, but I was too busy practicing and learning the cello and doing other things. Actually, I don't think it's in my natural talent to investigate those complicated matters. I have an older brother that went his way, and he's a physicist, so it's okay. We have one representative in the physics department.
There are a few big scientists which are like frustrated musicians.
Many, including Einstein.
Why do you think that happens?
Well, it's. I don't have the answer, but I think there is some sort of common thinking or some sort of brain work that goes well between mathematics and sciences, and how you analyze and understand music, especially harmony and form. So there is kind of that investigative mind that has to be there. Apart from that, I don't really know the answer, but I can tell you that you're right, because I grew up in a town where many scientists were there, and there was more musicians, amateur musicians. Like my father was an amateur musician, and all his friends, and everywhere we went, he would play music with his amateur physicists, biologists, and chemists. So there was a whole orchestra of these amateur scientists, amateur musicians. So yes, there is a connection. What it is, I think you need a neuro scientist to analyze that, maybe.
Okay. We're almost finished. So, is there any Mexican composer that you like contemporary?
Well, there's many. I don't know so well, and I don't always remember the names, but I've heard some great composers. Actually, last night I went to a concert and I heard a very beautiful new composition by a composer that I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but it was a premiere. I'll have to find out what his name was, and it was fascinating. And I know some of the famous ones, but I have to say I'm not an expert in Mexican music. But I'm happy to learn, actually. Because people read headlines and they read the news and they listen to the news, and that's the picture they get. It's even in this global and internet and media, everything is available at your fingertips. People still are not active enough to go investigate. but there are things that are being done. I mean, exchanges, cultural exchanges are happening all the time, and they should happen as much as possible. And here and there, you see very nice initiatives of young people traveling to study here and young people coming to study there, and it is more active of movement between countries and between cultures. But I think that it's always been like that. People look at the headline and look at kind of the easiest thing. Okay, Mexico, Narcos. You see it on Netflix. It's the easiest to assume that Mexico is all about that. But if you dig in a little bit, I spent a few days now here. I was at the Anthropological Museum, and then the next day I went to the pyramids, and it's incredible history, an incredible, fascinating culture that is endless and the city here is full of I feel like it's vibrant culturally. So I think maybe it's PR. Everybody needs better PR. Also, Israel needs better PR as much as possible. Maybe I'm helping a little bit, hopefully.